Hello, everyone. This is Fred, and welcome to spiritual-masturbation.com. What I'd like to talk to you about today is quantum physics. Just the basics, keep it simple. I like to keep things simple. And how quantum physics was discovered, which I believe was in the late 60s or even early 70s, is they were monitoring a beam of light in a laboratory through its wavelength and frequency. And what they discovered is as a person would come into the room, the wavelength and the frequency of that beam of light would slightly change. And what they surmised after doing different studies is our morphogenetic field, which is the energy of our human body and our spiritual body, has an influence on things in this existence. And this existence is also holographic. Now, what I mean by holographic is it's not as real as what we perceive it to be. Because if you think about this from a physics perspective, everything in our existence is comprised of atoms. Now, an atom is 99.99999% vacuum or void. So if everything is comprised of atoms that are primarily a void, how does anything feel real or solid? And that has to do with our biology and how our body is perceiving these things through our senses, that is then converted into our computer or our brain to be appearing to be real and how it feels in this existence. So that's something that I remember learning, just the whole atomic structure in grade school. And I always thought it was fascinating that if everything is a void, how does anything feel solid? And it is just all perception. So when we look at this whole concept of quantum, what they found is all energy is in a wavelength form. And what I mean by a wavelength form is that everything is completely balanced, meaning everything has the capacity for love or for fear. And there's definitely so many different gradients of love and so many different gradients of fear. But the simpler that we keep it, the easier it is for us just to understand this. So all things are wavelength initially, and then they get converted through our witnessing of this wavelength energy, which then converts it to a particle in this holographic existence. Now, particles are what perceived to be real in this reality. So what is it that converts wavelength to particle? So to me, if wavelength is all balanced, then particles would reflect some form of an imbalance, meaning it has more love energy to it or it has more fearful energy to it. And if you look at the biology of our unconscious programs, which is what our brain believes to be its truth, which primarily comes from the first 5 years of our existence, is where our unconscious programs come into our existence based upon what we've experienced and what we felt with the emotion that was associated with that experience. And that becomes our unconscious. We don't know what we don't know. So what our unconscious reflects is those experiences we've had earlier on in our life, where our brain, our unconscious, has absorbed these through experience with a feeling, and then have created unconscious programs or structures or beliefs about this. So what unconsciously creates our existence, because over 80% of our life is unconsciously created, is a reflection of the imbalance of our programs. Now, primarily our programs are based on fear, and some also based upon love, which is that beautiful positive feeling versus the fight or flight and the emotions that come with fear. So all of our existence is a reflection of our imbalanced programs that are converting wavelength energy into particles. Now, what makes that really unique is we can see everything that is unconscious in our life by seeing what we are creating. So a lot of times people will be like, well, what would be the purpose of life? And I always like to say the purpose of life is to find love in the face of fear. Because when we're able to find love in the face of fear, that allows us to be able to balance that energy out. And if our unconscious becomes balanced with love and fear, then all of our unconscious would become conscious. And when we're conscious of something, we have the awareness of why it happened. We have the awareness to be able to see love and fear in every situation, with the hopes that we would be able to consciously choose love. And by consciously choosing love, it would allow us to create situations externally that would reflect particle imbalance where it's more love than fear. So this is primarily why I believe Earth is hell, is because we come here to experience this, to find love in the face of fear, which means we have to have programs put in place within the first 5 years of our existence that are a reflection of the imbalance of more fear than love. And this happens to create external situations. So therefore, our conscious mind is able to see that which is unconscious. So primarily, our unconscious programs that are imbalanced are converting wavelength to particles in our existence, which then appears to be real. Then our body is able to physically receive what it is that we are unconsciously creating through the five senses or sixth sense energy. And that external situation is then brought back through our nervous system, presented back to the unconscious for our unconscious to see which aspects we are creating in this moment. Now, once our unconscious interprets what we are creating based upon what we have experienced in the past, that which we know, when it comes to its conclusion, it gives us its recognition of this in the form of a thought. So our thoughts are a reflection of our unconscious creation in this existence. So we are consciously able to see that which is unconscious and imbalanced. So realizing that we are not in control of our thoughts is vital. And it can also provide us a little bit of relief because sometimes we have some really interesting, messed up thoughts. But realizing our thoughts are just our unconscious's way of allowing us to consciously see that which is imbalanced. And so that's primarily what quantum physics really is. It's the unconscious creation of what is imbalanced based upon our experiences earlier on in our life that most of us don't even consciously remember or recognize. So we're here to just find love in the face of fear, create that balance to the point to where we can start to consciously create, meaning we can consciously choose what gets converted from wavelengths to particles in our existence. And there's a lot of different ways to find ways to balance and to change our unconscious programs. One of the easiest ways I found is through the theta brainwave, which we will be talking about in another video. All right, thank you so much for your time. And any questions, feel free to leave in the comments. Reach out to me at my different emails, fredsalzman@yahoo.com or fredsalzman44@gmail.com. So thank you very much and have a beautiful day.